June 22nd, 1941, 3:05 a.m., just outside Brest, along the Bug River. The cold, pre-dawn stillness is shattered by a shrieking, tearing sound. Oberleutnant Karl Richter, commander of a Panzer III Orsf H with the 18th Panzer Division, grips the turret traverse handle. He doesn't need to check his watch. He can feel it. The rumble of 1,000 Maybach and Daimler-Benz engines ignites, a deafening mechanical symphony joined by the wail of Jericho trumpets from diving Stukas. Instantly, the eastern horizon erupts in brilliant orange light as 7,000 German artillery pieces open up as one. Operation Barbarossa has begun. Forward, Richter's voice crackles over the intercom, dry and electric. His 23-ton Panzer III lurches and begins to roll. All around him, hundreds of other steel machines from Guderian's Panzer Group, 2 light Panzer IIs, infantry support Panzer IVs, and Czech-built Panzer 38Ts surge forward. They are the Panzerwaffe, the conquerors. For Richter and his crew, this is just another day's work. They crushed Poland in weeks. They brought the French army, supposedly the strongest in Europe, to its knees in 6. They chased the British off the continent at Dunkirk. Their confidence isn't just arrogance, it has been forged in victory. Target, 11 o'clock. His gunner, Klaus, calls out. Richter squints through the periscope. A Soviet T-26 light tank, an old Vickers design, is frantically backing out of a tree line. It looks like a toy. Fire. Richter's 50mm, Quad 30, 8 litres, 42, a potent, respectable gun, barks a short. Sharp, thump, the armour-piercing shell crosses 600 metres and punches straight through the T-26's paper-thin hide. A second later, the Soviet tank vomits a plume of greasy black smoke. Kill confirmed, Richter says calmly, already scanning for the next target. Keep moving. The opening days of the invasion are a blur of unimaginable success. They push tens, then hundreds of kilometers into Soviet territory. Red Army infantry surrenders in droves. Airfields are shattered with I-16 and SB-2 aircraft still lined up neatly on the tarmac. The German tankers joke about the enemy's scrap metal. Their BT-7 tanks, while fast, are so lightly armoured that heavy machine guns can defeat them at close range. Even the standard German anti-tank weapon, the 3.7 cm Park 36, is adequate. Though the soldiers nicknamed it the Heeresanklaufgerät, the army's door knocker, for its impotence against British Matildas in France, here, against these Soviet machines, it does the job. The confidence of the Panzerwaffe is at its absolute peak. They are invincible. The cutting edge of a new theory of warfare proven right time and again. On June 24th, just 2 days into the invasion, Richter's division is pushing north through Lithuania, aiming for the bridges over the Dubisa River. Intelligence reports a Soviet counterattack massing from the town of Raseiniai. Richter smirks. A counterattack? Good. They are coming to us, saving us the trouble of hunting them. As his battalion moves into a shallow valley, the radio operator shouts, "Contact! Front! Multiple targets!" Richter raises his binoculars. In the distance, perhaps 1,000 meters out, a group of tanks is emerging. They are large, but that doesn't matter. Klaus, ready, Richter orders. Lead target, APCR. Armor-piercing composite, rigid. Understood, Herr Oberleutnant. Target locked. The enemy tank grows larger in the sight. It's unlike anything Richter has ever seen. It's low and wide, with a long, ominous gun. But the strangest thing is its shape. Every surface seems angled, sloped. Fire, Richter commands. Klaus's 50mm fires. A perfect shot. The tracer round flies true, striking the target dead center on its front glacis plate. And then the impossible happens. A bright white flash as the round impacts, and instead of penetrating, it ricochets skyward, harmlessly, like a stone thrown against a steel wall. In the cramped fighting compartment, silence. What? What was that? Klaus stammers. It bounced. Reload! Fire again! Richter screams, his throat suddenly dry. The strange Soviet tank, a T-34, hasn't even slowed down. It's accelerating. Klaus fires again. Ping. Another bright streak. The shell careens off. And again. Ping. Ping. It's not working. The gunner panics. The rounds won't go in. Before Richter can give another order, the T-34 fires. A deafening crack echoes across the valley, and the Panzer IV to Richter's right explodes in a ball of fire. The T-34's 76.2mm gun had gone through it as if it wasn't there. Richter feels a wave of pure, cold dread. They aren't the hunters. They are the prey. June 24th, 1941, 11:20 a.m. The valley floor near Raseiniai, Lithuania. The air is thick with acrid smoke and the metallic scream of ricochets. "Reverse! Reverse! Get us hull down!" Richter bellows, his voice cracking. His driver, young Brandt, slams the Panzer III into reverse, the transmission whining in protest. The tank lurches backward, seeking cover behind a slight rise in the terrain. The radio is an unintelligible storm of panic. Keine Wirkung, keine Wirkung, no effect. Hans is hit, he's burning. Flank, try to get the flank, aim for the rear. But there is no flank. The T-34 seconds, part of the Soviet 2nd Tank Division, are not slow, lumbering beasts like the French Char B-1. They are fast. They move across the rough terrain faster than Richter's own Panzer III, their wide tracks gripping the earth, their V2 diesel engines roaring. "Target, right, another one," Klaus screams, his composure gone. A second T-34 barrels over the crest. It ignores Richter's tank and focuses on a battery of PaK-36 anti-tank guns, frantically setting up in a nearby field. The gun crews, brave but doomed, begin firing their 3.7 centimeters rounds. Richter watches in horror. The shells, fired from the army's door knocker, look like sparks, like pebbles, striking the T-34's angled armor and vanishing. The T-34 doesn't even bother to stop. It fires its 76.2mm cannon on the move, a feat of stabilization the Germans can only dream of, and the nearest PaK-36 vanishes in a cloud of dirt and shrapnel. The tank then swerves, accelerating, and drives over the second gun position, crushing men and metal beneath its 26-ton weight. Richter feels sick. This isn't war, it's slaughter. And then, the true giant appears. From behind the first wave of T-34 seconds, something else emerges. It is colossal, high-shouldered, and slab-sided, moving with a ponderous, unstoppable squeal thump of immense tracks. Its turret, large and crude, mounts a gun just as large as the T-34's. "What in God's name is that?" Brandt whispers over the intercom. It is a Kliment Voroshilov, a KV-1, and it is heading directly for Kampfgruppe Raus. A panzer troop from a neighboring unit, Hauptmann, Captain von Schönberg, is watching from his own command tank. He orders his entire company to concentrate fire on the lead KV-1. A dozen 50mm guns bark in unison. The air is filled with the ping-ping-ping of high-velocity shells striking the KV-1's 75mm thick flat armor. The KV-1 stops, as if annoyed by the noise. It slowly, deliberately, turns its massive turret toward von Schönberg's company. The German crews watch, their blood running cold. They have hit it, they know they have hit it, but it shows no damage. The shells are simply not working. "It's invincible," von Schönberg murmurs. The KV-1 fires. A high explosive shell screams across the field and obliterates a Panzer II, flipping it onto its back like a dead beetle. It fires again, and a Panzer 38 bursts into flames. This is the birth of Panzer shock. It's not just fear. It is a deep, psychological crisis. The core of German blitzkrieg doctrine is the technological and tactical superiority of the Panzer. It is the spearhead that breaks the enemy, and the infantry follows. But here, at Raseiniai, the spearhead is broken. The weapon that defined their invincibility is now useless. Richter sees a gap. Brandt, full throttle. "Move! We have to get behind it. We have to hit it from the rear." It's their only chance. The Panzer III lurches forward, engine roaring, racing past a burning wreck of a friendly tank. They swing wide, desperately trying to get an angle on the T-34 that is still busy murdering the anti-tank gunners. "We're on its side," Klaus yells. "Range, 300 meters." "Fire, fire." Klaus fires. The 50mm APCR round, a tungsten core PGR-40 specially designed to kill tanks, streaks out and bounces off the T-34's side armor. It is impossible. The T-34 hasn't even noticed them. It didn't go in. Klaus is hysterical. "Sir, it didn't go in." Richter grabs the radio handset, bypassing his own crew, and screams to his battalion commander, "We cannot stop them. Our guns are useless. I repeat, our guns are useless. Pull back! Pull back!" His desperate plea is echoed by commanders all along the front. From Army Group North at Raseiniai to Army Group Center at Minsk, the story is the same. The Panzers, the victors of France, are being swatted aside. For Karl Richter and the men of the 18th Panzer Division, the legend of their own invincibility dies in that Lithuanian valley, spattered against the sloped armor of a tank they never knew existed. June 25th, 1941, 4:30 a.m., a single, vital crossroads south of Raseiniai. The sun is not yet up, but the grey light reveals the silhouette that has haunted Kampfgruppe Raus all night. It is a single Soviet tank, a KV-1, and it is simply sitting there. It had rolled up the previous afternoon, right into the main supply artery for the advancing 6th Panzer Division, and stopped. A column of 12 supply trucks, mistaking it for a captured wreck, had driven up. The KV-1's 76mm gun fired, and in 2 minutes, the entire column was a line of blazing funeral pyres. Now, it sits, engine idling, blocking the path of an entire German battle group. Oberst Colonel Erhard Raus is furious. This is humiliating. It is also deadly. His panzers are running low on fuel and ammunition, and this one metal beast is holding them hostage. "I want it gone," he orders. The first attempt is methodical. A battery of new 50mm Park 38 anti-tank guns, the replacement for the useless 37mm, is carefully wheeled into position 400 meters away in a ditch. "Fire on my command," the battery commander, Hauptmann Gerlach, whispers. At 5:10 a.m., 4 guns fire as one. The high-velocity tungsten rounds streak across the field. Clang, 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 clang. The sound is sickening, like a blacksmith's hammer on a giant anvil. The KV-1 shudders slightly from the kinetic impact. Blue-white sparks jump from its hide. Then, its turret begins to move. "It's turning," a gunner screams. The KV-1's cannon flashes. The high-explosive shell lands directly in the center of the Park 38 battery. The resulting explosion of fire, shrapnel, and mangled steel sends 2 of the guns flying. The crews of the other 2 are shredded. Silence returns, broken only by the low rumble of the KV-1's diesel engine. At 8 a.m., the Germans try again. This time, they bring a heavy 105mm field howitzer, a FH-18, and prepare it for direct fire. This is a weapon designed to lob shells for kilometers, not fight a tank. They load a heavy armor-piercing shell. Fire! The howitzer bucks, and the shell smashes into the KV-1's turret, a direct hit. The explosion obscures the tank in a cloud of black smoke. The German soldiers cheer. The smoke clears. The KV-1 is still there. The shell has gouged a small crater in the armor, but it has not penetrated. The turret is still turning. It fires. The howitzer and its entire crew cease to exist. By noon, desperation sets in. A pioneer combat engineer assault squad, led by Feldwebel, Sergeant Braun, is assembled. Their mission is suicidal. They must carry 5 kilograms, geballte Ladung, concentrated charges, and physically place them on the tank's hull. "Wait for the machine gun. Now! Go! Go! Go!" Braun sprints from cover, his heart pounding so hard it hurts his ribs. The air is filled with the thump, thump, thump of the tank's coaxial machine gun firing blind. He runs, lungs burning, and dives into the ditch beside the road, just meters from the iron behemoth. He can feel the vibration of its engine through the ground. He scrambles up the embankment, places the charge against the track, pulls the fuse, and is cut in half by a burst of machine gun fire from the hull gunner who was waiting for him. The charge explodes, tearing the track apart. The KV-1 is immobilized, but it is not dead. Its turret still turns. It is now a fortress. Finally, at 17:00 p.m., after nearly a full day of paralysis, Colonel Rouse calls for the last resort, the wonder weapon. A crew from a Luftwaffe anti-aircraft battalion begins to set up their gun. It is the 8,8, the 88mm Flak 36, the one gun the Allies learned to fear in France. Range, 700 meters, the gun commander barks. AP shell, load. The crew works with frantic precision. This is their only chance. Target sighted. Fire. The 88mm gun cracks like a bolt of lightning. The shell, travelling at over 820 meters per second, does not ping. It does not clang. It makes a sound like a steel door slamming shut. Whoomp. It punches a neat, small hole in the KV-1's thick side armour, zips through the crew compartment, and blows out the other side. A second shot. Whoomp. A third. Whoomp. White smoke begins to pour from the entry holes. The KV-1's gun goes silent. The low rumble of its engine dies. The German soldiers stand up, dazed. It took the combined efforts of an entire battle group, multiple batteries of artillery, a suicide squad of engineers, and the most powerful anti-aircraft gun in the world to destroy one single tank. The reports sent back to High Command that night are not of victory, but of stark, terrifying realization. July 14th, 1941. Army Ordnance Proving Ground, Kummersdorf, Germany. The air is humid and still, a stark contrast to the dust and fire of the Eastern Front. Here, there is no sound of artillery, only the nervous coughs of men in immaculate uniforms and factory lab coats. They stand in a semicircle, hats in hand, around a low-slung, ugly machine. It is a T-34, 76 Model 1941, captured near Minsk and rushed back to the Reich under a heavy tarp, as if it were a contagious disease. Standing apart from the group is General Heinz Guderian, the father of the Panzerwaffe. His face is a mask of grim fury. He has flown directly from the front, leaving his Panzers to punch deeper into Russia, to be here for this. He stabs a leather-gloved finger at the Soviet tank. There, he states, his voice low and cutting. There is the machine that has made liars of our intelligence and fools of our engineers. Explain it. The man who steps forward is Dr. Ferdinand Porsche, alongside representatives from Daimler-Benz and MAN. This is not a technical review. It is an inquest. General. The reports are... One of the engineers begins. They seem exaggerated. Our Panzer III's new 50mm L, 60 gun, should. Guderian cuts him off. I have seen Oberleutnants weep because they have put 20, 30 rounds into one of these things, only to have them bounce off like hailstones. I have seen my Panzers, the victors of Europe, brewed up by its 76mm gun from a kilometre away, before my men even knew they were in range. Do not tell me what should be, tell me what is. An ordnance specialist, a man with calipers and a clipboard, begins to read his findings. His voice is dry, academic, and utterly terrifying. We begin with the armour, meine Herren, he says, his hand resting on the T-34's glacis plate. The plate itself is only 45mm thick. A few of the executives look relieved. Their Panzer III has 50mm, and the new Panzer IV Osef F has 50mm on its turret and hull. Do not be comforted, the specialist continues, his voice flat. This 45mm plate is sloped at 60 degrees from the vertical. The trigonometric reality, he pauses, looking at the generals. This means a projectile striking it must penetrate an effective thickness of 90mm of steel. A stunned silence. 90mm, their most powerful tank gun, the 50mm KWK 38 litres, 42 on Richter's Panzer III, can penetrate perhaps 60 millimeters at 500 meters. The short-barreled 75 millimeters on the Panzer IV is a howitzer. Its AP shell is almost useless against armor. Only the 88 millimeters flak gun can reliably penetrate it, and that is an anti-aircraft gun, not a tank weapon. It weaponizes geometry, a Daimler-Benz man whispers, horrified. All our designs are based on vertical plates, easier to manufacture, easier to mount. They do not care about easy, Guderian says. The specialist moves to the side. The chassis. Look at the tracks. They are 50 centimeters wide. Wide. Our Panzer III uses 36 centimeter tracks. When the autumn rains come, General Oberst, your tanks will be swimming in mud. This tractor, he says with a mix of disgust and awe, will float over it. He points to the large road wheels. And this, no complex, delicate bogies like our own. This is a Christie suspension. It is an American design, one we thought was too radical. It allows for incredible cross-country speed. We clocked this damaged vehicle at over 50 kilometers per hour, faster than the Panzer III, far faster than the IV. Finally, they move to the rear of the tank and open the massive engine cover. What lies beneath is the greatest shock of all. It is not a petrol engine, Dr. Porsche says, his professional curiosity overriding his shock. He runs a hand over the block. It is an aluminum block V12, a diesel. The implications hit the room like a physical blow. German Panzers all run on high-octane gasoline. They are gas guzzlers, requiring a massive, vulnerable supply train of fuel tankers. Gasoline is volatile. A penetrating hit almost always means a catastrophic fire, a brew-up that incinerates the crew. This Model V2 diesel engine is lightweight, efficient, and produces immense torque. Its fuel is less flammable, giving the crew a chance to escape. And its operational range. It is nearly double that of a Panzer IV. A lightweight, high-speed diesel, Guderian repeats, shaking his head. We have been trying to develop one for 10 years. They told us it was impossible. They have achieved the impossible trinity, General, the specialist says, closing his notebook. Superior armor, superior firepower, and superior mobility, all in one package. This is the moment the Panzerschock transitions from a battlefield panic to a strategic crisis. The entire foundation of the German war machine technological superiority is a lie. They have invaded a country with a tank that is, component for component, better than anything they possess. The meeting moves from the proving ground to a smoke-filled conference room in Berlin. The question is no longer if the T-34 is superior, but what, in God's name, is to be done about it. We copy it, Guderian states, slamming his fist on the table. We take this captured T-34, we give it to Daimler, and we tell them to build an exact copy. It is the fastest way. The engineers and industrialists are apoplectic. Copy. Copy that. That crude Bolshevik monstrosity. One executive sputters. General, the welding is atrocious. The finish is non-existent. There are gaps in the armor plate you could stick a finger through. And the transmission, another adds, is a catastrophe. We found a hammer next to the driver's station. We believe he literally has to hammer the tank into gear. And the turret, chimes in a Waffenamt officer. It is a two-man design. The commander has no cupola. He must act as his own gunner. He is blind, and he is overworked. He cannot command his tank and fight it at the same time. This is why we are still winning, gentlemen. Our 5-man crews, our superior optics, our radios, our doctrine is what is defeating them, not our machines. The argument rages for hours. To copy the T-34 would be an admission of ideological and engineering failure. It is un-German. A compromise is finally reached. They will not copy the T-34. They will answer it. They will take its principles, sloped armor, a long, high-velocity gun, wide tracks, and a Christie-style suspension, and they will build a German version. A version with a 3-man turret, with Zeiss optics, with a reliable Maybach engine and with a radio. The Panzer Commission is born. Orders are issued to Daimler-Benz and MAN to design a new 30-ton tank. Its project name is Panzer V. It will become the Panther. But the Panther is a dream. It will not see a battlefield until 1943. The crisis is now. The High Command issues a flurry of desperate, stopgap orders. Upgun the Panzer IV. Rip out that short 75mm howitzer and replace it with a long-barreled, high-velocity cannon that can kill a T-34. Now. This will become the KWK 40 liters, 43. Find a way to mount the PAK 47.5 centimeters anti-tank gun onto a chassis. Any chassis. A Czech chassis, an old French one. I do not care. We need mobile tank killers. This will create the Marder series. And the 88. A general shouts. Get every 88mm flak gun we can spare, put it on a half-track, and send it to the front. It is the only thing we have that can stop them. The quick, 4-month war envisioned by Hitler is dead. It died at Rasenii, and its autopsy was performed at Kummersdorf. The war in the East is no longer a blitzkrieg. It is now a material Schlacht, a war of production, of steel, and of survival. The arms race has begun, and for the first time in the war, the Third Reich is not the predator. It is the one being chased. August 24th, 1942, 9:17 a.m. The endless steppe, 70 kilometers southwest of Stalingrad. The dust is the first enemy. It is a fine, yellow powder that clogs the engines, the gun sights, and the lungs. Unteroffizier, Sergeant Frank Hanke, commander of a Panzerjäger Marder II, tastes it on his teeth. His tank is a joke, and a bad one at that. It's the chassis of an obsolete Panzer II, a small, weak tank he once drove in Poland. But now, where its tiny turret used to be, a massive 7.5 centimeters PAK 40 anti-tank gun has been bolted, protected only by a thin, open-topped shield. Hanke and his two-man crew are not Panzertruppen. They are Panzerjäger tank hunters, a name that sounds brave, but Hanke knows the truth. You are only the hunter until the prey sees you. In this open-topped, 11-ton coffin, being seen is death. Dust cloud, 2 o'clock. His loader, a 9-year-old named Leo, whispers, his voice dry. Hanke raises his Scherenfernrohr scissor binoculars over the edge of the shield. He doesn't need to. He can feel the vibration through the floor plate. Russians, Hanke says, his stomach tightening. At least a company. Looks like T-34 seconds. This is the new war. The arrogance of 1941 is gone, replaced by a cold, calculating, and deeply personal terror. The Panzer shock has faded, but its legacy is this: a war fought with stopgaps and desperate expedients. The Marder is one of those expedients. It is a glass cannon, a weapon born of pure panic, but it has one single virtue, the PAK 40 gun. It is the gun that can finally kill the T-34 from the front. Driver, pull us into that ditch. Engine off. Gunner, you are clear to fire on the lead tank. 1 shot, then we move. Understand? Understood, Herr Unteroffizier. The Marder settles, its long gun pointing toward the dust cloud. The rumble becomes a roar. Out of the haze, they appear not as individual tanks, but as a wave. 10, 15, then 20 T-34 seconds, moving fast, infantry clinging to their hulls. They are cruder than the 1941 models. The welding is sloppy, the paint is non-existent, but there are so many of them. Range, 1,000 meters, Leo calls out, his eye pressed to the sight. Wait. The T-34 seconds are not slowing. They haven't seen the hidden Marder. 800 meters, firing. The Marder II rocks back violently with a deafening crack. The 7.5 centimeters shell, a Psedgura 40 tungsten core shot, screams across the steppe. Hanke watches through his binoculars as the lead T-34, which would have contemptuously shrugged off a 50mm shell, seems to stumble. A small, black hole appears on its front glacis. A half-second later, Its turret blows 20 feet into the air in a perfect, smoky ring. "Target destroyed," Leo yells, already fumbling for a new shell. "I said one shot," Hunky screams. "Driver, move, move, reverse, go!" The engine roars to life just as the other T-34 seconds, now alert, turn their turrets. A 76.2mm shell snaps past their position, so close Hanke can feel the heat. Another shell explodes where they were parked a second before. "They're on us! They're on us!" The driver panics. "Shut up and drive!" Hunker commands, his knuckles white on the shield. They race backward, a high-profile, thinly armoured target fleeing from the monsters they were sent to hunt. This isn't blitzkrieg. This is a knife fight in the dark. 100 kilometers to the north, Oberleutnant Karl Richter, promoted after the Rasenii disaster, finds himself in a similar, yet vastly different situation. He is no longer in a Panzer III. The army has given him a new mount. At first glance, it looks like the same old Panzer IV. But where the short, stubby 75mm L-24 howitzer used to be, there is now a new weapon. A long, elegant, and utterly lethal 7.5 centimeters KWK, 40 liters, 43 cannon. This is the Panzer IV OSF, F2, the stopgap that is saving the Panzerwaffe. Richter and his men call it the Langschwert, the longsword. "Klaus," Richter says over the intercom, his voice calm. His old gunner, Klaus, is no longer the hysterical boy from 1941. He is a hardened veteran. "You see the patrol." "I see them, Herr Oberleutnant," Klaus replies. His voice is cold. 3T, 34 seconds, 1,400 meters. In 1941, this would have been a suicide. The T-34 seconds would have been invulnerable, and Richter's 50mm gun would have been useless. Now, the entire battlefield geometry has changed. Target, lead tank. Range, 1,400. Range set, target locked. Fire. The Quedlable K-40 barks, a sound much sharper and more powerful than the old 50mm. Richter watches the tracer. It seems to take forever, a red line drawn across the steppe. It strikes the T-34 on the upper glacis. For a moment, nothing. Then, a plume of black smoke. The tank slews to a halt, its driver dead. "Hit," Klaus says, already traversing to the next target. Next. The other two T-34 seconds, confused, fire back. Their 76.2mm shells, so terrifying at Rasenii, fall short, kicking up dirt 200 meters in front of Richter's tank. "They cannot reach us," Richter says, a grim satisfaction in his voice. "But we can reach them. Klaus, fire." Another crack. The second T-34 shudders, and its crew begins to bail out. Black silhouettes against the orange fire building inside. The third T-34 reverses frantically, disappearing into a cloud of its own dust. This is the new doctrine. The longsword Panzer IV, combined with superior German optics and crew training, has evened the odds. The Germans are no longer brawlers, they are snipers. They are using their qualitative edge training and optics to exploit the one weakness of the T-34, its poor sights and overworked two-man turret. They are killing the T-34 seconds at ranges where the T-34 cannot effectively fight back. For a brief, shining moment in mid-1942, it seems like the Panzerwaffe is back. But the Panzerschock had done more than just spur the creation of stopgap weapons. In Berlin, it had infected the High Command with a new, dangerous obsession, gigantism. November 20th, 1942. Hitler's Wolf's Lair, East Prussia. The room is thick with cigar smoke. Hitler, Albert Speer, and Heinz Guderian are leaning over a massive blueprint. The engineers from Henschel and Porsche are present, but silent. This is not the practical, desperate meeting from Kummersdorf. This is something else. The reports from the front are acceptable, Hitler is saying, his finger tracing the design. The new Panzer IV is good, but good is not enough. The Panzer V, he says, tapping the plans for the Panther tank, is the answer to the T-34. It has its speed, its sloped armor, its long gun. It is the perfect medium tank. Guderian nods, relieved. Führer, yes, this is what we need, mass-produced. We must cancel all other projects and build only the Panzer IV and the new Panther. If we can produce 2,000 of these a month. No, Hitler says, his voice suddenly flat. The room grows cold. The T-34 was a shock. Hitler continues, his eyes distant. But the KV-1, that was an insult. A fortress that our weapons could not scratch. I will not have my armies face such an insult again. He moves to another set of blueprints. The design is massive, crude, symmetrical. It is all right angles and thick, flat plates. It is the antithesis of the elegant, sloped Panther. Führer, Speer begins. This is the Panzer VI, the Tiger. It is 57 tons. It is a logistical nightmare. The transmission is untested. It will break down. The engine is underpowered. It will consume 7 gallons of fuel per mile. It cannot cross most of the bridges in Russia. Then it will ford the rivers, Hitler snaps. Or you will build new bridges. But mein Führer, Guderian protests. This is not a Panzer. It is a bunker buster, a static defense weapon. It is too slow. It violates every principle of blitzkrieg. It has 100 millimeters of frontal armor, but it is vertical. We have learned from the T-34 that— You have learned nothing, Hitler shouts, his face crimson. The T-34's armor works because its gun is weak. This, he slaps the Tiger blueprint, will carry the 8.8, the 88 millimeter cannon. It will fear no Soviet tank, and no Soviet tank will be able to penetrate its armor. Not from the front, not from the side. It will be invincible. This is the true, lasting, and fatal legacy of the Panzer shock. The T-34 and KV-1 did not just force Germany into an arms race, they forced Germany into the wrong arms race. The T-34's victory was not just on the battlefield, it was in the mind of the German High Command. It panicked them into a ruinous, schizophrenic production strategy. Instead of mass-producing 1 or 2 good, reliable, simple tanks like the Soviets were doing with the T-34, Germany was now splitting its limited resources to build 4 different, incompatible, and colossally complex machines. The Panzer IV, the proven, reliable workhorse. The Panther, the complex, perfect, answer to the T-34. The Tiger, the over-engineered, resource-devouring, invincible heavy tank. And the Marder, the cheap, disposable tank killer holding the line. The T-34 had turned the Wehrmacht from a flexible spearhead into a production hydra, fighting itself. The war of production has begun, and Germany, obsessed with invincibility, has already lost. The first Tigers are now on trains, heading for the forests near Leningrad. The first Panthers are rolling off the assembly lines, plagued by mechanical failures. A new, titanic clash is brewing. A clash that will decide the war. July 5th, 1943, 4:45 a.m., near Belgorod, the southern shoulder of the Kursk salient. Hauptmann Captain Rolf Werner, commander of a company in the 10th Panzer Brigade, breathes in the smell of new paint, lubricating oil, and ozone. He is sitting in the commander's cupola of a brand new Panzer V, the Panther Ausf. D. It is a beautiful machine, a 45-ton Predator. Its sloped frontal armor is 80 millimeters thick, but at its angle, it offers more protection than the Tiger's 100 millimeters flat plate. Its heart is a long, high-velocity, 7.5 centimeters, Queb UK, 42 liters, 70 cannon, a gun so powerful it's rumored to be able to shoot through a T-34 from one end and out the other. For Werner, a veteran who survived 1,941 inches, a hopelessly outmatched Panzer III, this tank is not just a weapon, it is a vindication. It is the Reich's final, definitive answer. The Panzer shock is a memory. Now, it is their turn to be shocked. All call signs, Panzer Keil formation, the battalion commander's voice crackles over the radio. Tigers will lead, Panthers on the flanks, Panzer IVs and IIs to clean up. We will not stop until we are in Prokhorovka. Panzer, march. Werner's Panther lurches forward, its 600-horsepower Maybach engine roaring a deep, throaty baritone. Around him, the earth trembles. This is Operation Citadel. It is the greatest concentration of German armour ever assembled. 2 entire army groups, nearly 1 million men, and 2,700 tanks and assault guns are being thrown against the Soviet defences. This is the last blitzkrieg. As they rumble over the pre-dawn landscape, Werner looks through his revolutionary Zeiss TZF-12 binocular sight. The clarity is astonishing. He can count the blades of grass at 800 meters. Contact, his gunner, Heine, calls out. 11 o'clock, dug in T, 34 seconds. Range, 1,800 meters. 1,800 meters, nearly 2 kilometers. In his old Panzer III, that was beyond visual range. For the T-34, it was an impossible shot. Heine, Werner says, his voice a low, excited hum. Target the lead. Fire. Firing. The Panthers L. 70 gun doesn't just thump, it cracks. A solid whip, crack, that resonates through the steel hull. The high-velocity, tungsten core PZGR 40/42 shell is travelling at 1,120 meters per second. It covers the 1,800 meters in less than 2 seconds. Werner doesn't even see the shell. He just sees the result. The T, 34 inches, his sights doesn't explode. It is penetrated. A puff of smoke, and it is still. Hit, kill, Heine shouts, already traversing. Next target, 1,750 meters. Whip crack, another T-34 is punched through. Kill. This is not a battle. This is a Reichsmarkschießen, a target shoot. They're firing back, Werner's radio operator warns. Ping. Ping. Pang. The sound is familiar, but the terror is gone. 3 76.2mm shells, fired from the surviving T-34 seconds, strike the Panther's sloped glacis plate. They ricochet harmlessly, painting bright yellow streaks on the new paint. Werner laughs. He actually laughs. It's just like Rasenii, he says over the intercom. But the boot is on the other foot. Keep firing, Heine. Kill them all. The Panzer shock has been reversed. For the Soviet tankers, this is their worst nightmare. Their guns, which dominated the battlefield for 2 years, are suddenly useless. Their armour, once invincible, is now as weak as paper. They are facing a new generation of invincible German tanks. But the German gamble was not just on technology, it was on production, and the Panthers, built by slave labour and under Allied bombing, were rushed to the front. Sir! Werner's driver yells, his voice tight with panic. I smell smoke! It's not gunpowder! Werner's stomach drops. He looks at the engine temperature gauge. The needle is in the red. It's the fuel pump! The driver shouts. She's leaking! We're on fire! A plume of thick, greasy smoke begins to pour from their own engine deck. Bail out! Bail out! Werner screams. He and his crew tumble out of the Panther, just as the flames lick at the ammunition stowage. They are 1,500 meters from the enemy, in the middle of a minefield, and their invincible tank has been destroyed, not by the enemy, but by its own faulty engineering. All along the front, the story is the same. Of the 200 brand-new Panthers that started the attack, more are immobilized by mechanical failures, leaking fuel pumps, overloaded transmissions, and weak final drives than by enemy fire. And then, there is the other enemy. Hauptmann Werner, now on foot, dives into a shell crater as the ground erupts. He sees his battalion commander's Tiger tank, the 57-ton beast, roll over a slight rise. Instead of finding fleeing Russians, it finds what the Soviets call a pack front. It is not a lone anti-tank gun, it is a wall of them. 40, maybe 50-76.2mm, Ziz 3 guns, all dug in, all zeroed on this exact spot. The Soviet commander waits until the Tiger is 400 meters away. Fire. In 10 seconds, the Tiger is hit by 20 high-explosive and armor-piercing shells. Its invincible 100mm armor cannot withstand a coordinated, massed volley. It shudders to a halt, on fire, its crew dead. Werner watches, horrified. The Germans had built their new tanks to fight the T-34. The Soviets, in their genius, had simply refused to fight a tank-on-tank battle. They had absorbed the German Panzer Kale on a sponge of millions of anti-tank mines and thousands of camouflaged anti-tank guns. The Germans had created a long, sharp sword. The Soviets had created a 20-mile-deep shield of flesh, steel, and earth. And behind that shield, the real army was waiting. On July 12th, at Prokhorovka, the German advance, already bled white by the defences, smashes into the Soviet Strategic Reserve, the 5th Guards Tank Army. It is an ocean of T-34 seconds. For every one Panther or Tiger, the Soviets have 10 T-34 seconds. And they are not sniping, they are charging. They drive straight at the Tigers, at full speed, getting inside their 88mm guns traverse. They slam into the Panthers, sacrificing themselves to get a shot at their weaker side armor. The T-34 seconds are dying in droves, burning in the hundreds, but they just keep coming. The ultimate lesson of the Panzer shock is finally revealed. The T-34's real invincibility was not its sloped armor, which the Germans had copied. It was not its gun, which the Germans had surpassed. It was its simplicity. It was crude, it was rough, and it was loud. But it could be built by unskilled workers in factories in the Urals by the tens of thousands. Germany had created the Tiger and the Panther complex, exquisite and rare predators. The Soviets had created the T-34, the steel rat, a creature that could be easily killed, but one that bred faster than it could be exterminated. At Kursk, the German Panzerwaffe was finally and irrevocably broken. The arms race that began at Rasenii in 1941, the one fueled by the panic of Panzer shock, was over. The Wehrmacht lost, not because their technology was inferior, but because their philosophy was. They had bankrupted their war economy chasing an invincible, qualitative ideal, while the Soviets, in their crude, simple, and overwhelming T-34, had achieved invincible quantity.